Maybe I'm making the call.
Oh, man. Oh, well.
So what's going on?
Well, what's going on is we're having our very first live Q&A with TNA. I'm pretty excited.
As am I.
So
Glad you could join us.
Thank you for joining us. Wow, 9 people on.
I'm Tara, Andre of TNA, interchangeable.
I'm Tara. So the reason we're doing this is because a lot of people reach out to us and ask questions, and there's been questions in the group. We're also part of other groups, and people ask questions as well. So we thought it would be fun to come on and answer some of those burning questions you have. Maybe, hopefully not burning inside of you.
I don't know that I have all the answers, but we can try and talk about it and find out what the best answers are, right? I think a lot of these things are still developing in many ways, right? I mean, there's the world that we know is forever changing, and much of it is on a spectrum or continuum, right?
Exactly.
You get to see what might be an answer for me or for you might be different for someone else. It's very individual.
Oh, look at all the people on. Oh, Angus is here from London. Amber says we look very studious. Yes. So thank you to everyone who sent in questions. You can ask questions in the chat. I'm just seeing that I have to actually manually scroll them, so I'm going to try to pay attention to that. So, so should we tell them a little bit about ourselves?
Yeah, let's do that. Should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, introduce ourselves.
That's also something to talk about, right? How do we introduce ourselves? How do we identify ourselves, right? So recently I read an article about GCERT. You know GCERT?
I've just recently heard it, but maybe people don't know what that stands for.
I didn't know either. I'm going to actually have to cheat here and correct me if I'm wrong, but it is gender, sexual, erotic, and relational diversity, right? So what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Well, I think they're kind of identifiers that might help us to identify ourselves, right? That we might be able to use these descriptors and say a little bit about who we are. But again, they are very often on a continuum, on a spectrum, but also they are plastic, right? So who I was years ago may not be who I am today or who I be tomorrow.
Okay.
Right? But so the first one, gender. So I guess I'm born as a male, and I would be considered cis male, right?
And you identify as male.
For the most part. Well, that's my next one, right? So how do I identify? Well, I think I am coming to terms more and more with the idea that I have male and female, what they call male and female components, and I am in some ways two-spirited. But I don't want to also, in this time that we live in, I don't want to appropriate or misappropriate using that term, because it is also used by Indigenous people for something. But I think a lot of it also has to, where's your heart coming from, right? What's your motive or your intent when you borrow from another culture? Is it done in earnest? And I identify as two-spirited because I was raised by a woman, and I'm very in tune with my feminist qualities, and I like to be in touch with what we would consider, I guess, female and male. So anyway, that's part of mine.
So gender, sexual, erotic,
relational. There's a lot
to
be said about it, obviously.
So can you name those things for yourself?
So
in a maybe quicker way so we can get to the questions?
Relational diversity. I guess I'm living a poly lifestyle, or lifestyle, whichever that means. But again, there's a lot to be said about it. I'll go too much in depth, perhaps, to say that. But what do you want to say about it? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm not huge on labels, but I think sometimes it does help to understand kind of the various components of you. So I kind of like this. So I would say that I'm a female identifying in terms of gender. I use pronouns of she and her. I was born a female, and I use the pronouns she and her.
I like they.
I like they too. I like they as well.
Yeah,
or you can
referring to the third person.
You can call me anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's important to me, but it's important to other people, and it's important to recognize when people have very specific pronouns they want to go by. So, and then in terms of racial diversity, I'd say I'm bisexual, queer, and polyamorous. So that's kind of my thing.
Fantastic.
But the reason the other parts of us is I am a relationship and awesomeness coach, and you?
You are awesome. And I'm a registered psychotherapist in Ontario, Canada, in Toronto.
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching right now. We're working on a course, which we're really excited about, and so we'll be launching it soon. But we're going to do some more of these Q's and A's. So let's jump into it, shall we? So I'm going to try to keep watching the chat, but I do have some questions. So should we start with this first one?
Sure.
Like, what is polyamory?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, what is polyamory? And when we say polyamory, are we also talking about lifestyle or swinging or things like that, or ethically open non-monogamous relationships?
Well, I think it depends on who you are. So different people have different definitions of what polyamorous is and being in a polyamorous relationship. So some people, I think, look at it in like a very strict confines where you're in a loving relationship that's long-term and committed, and some people have like a broader definition that might include things like swinging or just having like multiple sexual partners and that sort of thing. So
interesting. So there's possibly a distinction between if you were romantically involved in a intimate, emotional way as compared to it being purely physical?
In some people's minds, yeah. And some people are really very strict and very like take it super serious.
Yeah,
like,
some people are very very strong about their opinions.
But I'm kind of in the fence. Like I'm in the middle. Like you be you. And different, like there's so many different ways people do polyamory as well. And I don't know if you're in some of the other groups, but sometimes there's chats, and I always know when someone says something in one of those groups, and someone's gonna jump down their throat because they're new and they say something like, "We're looking at adding someone to our relationship," and then it's like people just go,
it's like unicorn hunting.
Unicorns,
right?
yeah. Like
people get a lot of flack for that.
Oh yeah, and they give them the link to Unicorns Are Us, and I'm like, oh man, you poor people. Anyways,
but then again, why not?
Yeah, if that's what you like and that's what you want, and there's definitely people that are like that one group that you invited me to. It's all about hooking up, man. Like those.
Really? You have to show me what group that is.
All those people they have no problem about saying they want to add someone to their relationship, and people like don't ever comment that. So it's quite interesting how different it is from some of the other groups.
Right, but the thing is, really, is it appropriate for that group, right? Because some groups have strict policies where you're not to do that, right? It's not, they don't want you
like ours.
Fielding that. So really, I think that also touches on one of the tenets of polyamory, of lifestyle, of all that, whatever you want to call it, is the idea of respect and consent.
Exactly.
Right? So if it's not part of the group's agreement, if you don't have their consent, then you ought not to do it.
And that's true with all relationships, right?
With
like
all
any
relationships.
relationship.
And
so
consent is always, it is your right to give, and it is also your right to take back at any time without question or pressure. No, come on, babe, or anything like that, right?
Yeah. So we've been in situations like that.
Yeah, and the more you make somebody feel secure in this, the more apt they are to come to you and want to participate. Not to say that it's guaranteed that they're going to, but I mean, if you kind of force somebody, it's never the right approach, right?
Yeah.
No pressure, no expectations. Whatever.
Okay, so I'm just looking to see. I don't see any other lots of comments. Hi, everyone. You can always ask a question in the chat if you want, but we'll just keep going because we have lots of questions here. So one of our, what were you going to say?
That's okay. I answered my own question. I was wondering if everybody is able to see what's going on in the chat, but I'm sure they will. So
I think they can. So one of our group members asked on the potential of jealousy, how to reflect on this, the process, and communicate this as it arises in its various forms. So talking about jealousy. And for example, when your partner meets someone new that excitements, when your partner engages in fun play without you, different levels or forms of intimacy that your partner may have with you versus other partners. So jealousy. Something I can say about jealousy is that people always think, like when you tell people that you're in a polyamorous relationship or you're in an open relationship, they're always like, aren't you so, I couldn't do it. I'm so jealous.
So how do you not get jealous then? How do you operate?
How do I off-put it? Well,
Can we say it? How do you off-put it?
Off-put it.
How do you keep it from becoming too big a great a thing? How are you able to sidestep jealousy? And do you have to automatically be jealous? And if you're not jealous, is it any indication that you're not invested enough in the person? You don't love them enough? I mean,
yeah.
So what's your take on that?
Am I being interviewed?
No, I'm just curious.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting is that they think that jealousy is like you only have jealousy if you're in like a multi-relational relationship, whatever, multi-partner relationship, and it's not true. If you're in a monogamous relationship, you can still have jealousy. Jealousy is, I don't know, we were having this debate earlier about whether jealousy is like an emotion. I think jealousy is the outcome of various things. So you might be feeling, like this person was saying, like maybe you're feeling insecure about yourself. There's like all kinds of reasons why you might feel jealousy around something. Worried about being rejected, you fear. So it's usually comes out of something that's inside of you. So then in dealing with jealousy, it's like, for me, it's like understanding why it is I'm feeling jealous in that moment. And, is it, I think you've said before to me something like, do I feel like something is being taken away from me? But I mean, I don't feel like I own you either. So like
But the ego does have a tendency to want to attach, and it might have, old ways of making ownership. I think it's very much for me ego question. So if I am having this fantasy in whatever capacity that I kind of own you, you belong to me, as they say, then what happens when there is some possibility of you going somewhere else, leaving for a moment? Am I afraid that you might not come back? Or will I be faced with a loss? So I think for me, that's a lot of it. It's when I can feel a sense of security, both in myself, but in the relationship, that I can feel as though I don't have to worry about that potential loss, that I am secure within myself, and it kind of offsets that jealousy. But there's a lot more to say about that, obviously.
Is it appropriate for that group? One of the hardest parts.
We have a question coming in here. Read it aloud. What's it say?
I don't think so. I don't know. I appreciate this point. Is it appropriate for that group? Is this one of the hardest parts of navigating Facebook? I have found that I'm far more collaborative and naive than most expect or assume. Oh, interesting. I'm not sure if that's a question.
I'm not sure I understand it. Maybe we can get some clarity on that.
Yeah, Ashley, was there a question? Like, just write that down. So, I don't know. You asked me how I deal with jealousy. I mean, we get jealous sometimes, don't we?
On occasion, but I think it's much less now than it was in the past. In the very beginning, I remember one time in particular, I got very jealous. We were at a party, and you were making out with somebody, and
as you do at parties.
And I was quite impressed by it, obviously, right? And I felt inadequate. I felt like I wasn't going to be enough, and you were going to prefer them over me, and you would never come back. That was, the quick of the fantasy. I
think that's a common fear.
No doubt, right? We think that they're going to find somebody else who's better than us, or give them something that we can't give them, and they're going to go to that. Mm-hmm. Well, as luck would have it, you came and got me and reassured me, and I felt that you really were appreciative of my insecurities, and you made me feel understood, and I felt very connected to you that way. And then I felt that it was somehow less threatening, that you might go out and enjoy other aspects of life, but still have the desire to want to see me and be with me. So it's, we go to the buffet, and we like one dish, but it's not to say that we're not going to enjoy the other dishes, but we can still go there and, there's bad metaphor.
Buffet. When was the last time you were at a buffet?
Too long ago.
No, it's a good metaphor.
I saw your Indian cookbooks. That's why I was thinking of you.
All my cookbooks are laid out in front of us here. Simon just made a good point. It's, what do you say? A great way to turn jealousy around is to celebrate and encourage your partner's loves as if they would celebrate for you. And I think we do that more now. I mean, we have figured it out. It does take some time. It's really understanding what it is that's driving your jealousy. And like, I think for most people, like for me, I think it's always fear. And I think it's common, like for women, like female identifying people.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to say this, that if you're worried that, I was worried that someone's going to be younger, prettier, smarter,
you don't think
sexier.
Men, no, wait a second, you don't think men or people identified any other way also do that? I think that's a human trait. I don't think it's limited to, I think, for sure. Guys have this fantasy, he's going to be bigger, he's going to be harder, he's going to be faster, he's going to be richer, he's going to be whatever it is.
That's true, that's true.
It's a human quality that we have our own insecurities, and we think that we're not going to measure up to whatever we imagine the other person's going to have, right? We think it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the sexiest things that we can do is be confident. So if we can be confident that they were with us for some reason, it's because they wanted to be with us, and we're still that desirable person. There's no guarantees in life. They might find some other love someplace else, but I think that our fears needn't dictate the way that we interact, because the fear is not necessarily the most attractive thing. The confidence is. How do we get there? But how do we get there? If you have a loving, supportive partner to help you, then it's a benefit. But we just look internally for our own strengths and know that we are perfectly fantastic the way we are.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think, is it more jealous of being replaced or superimposing yourself into the situation? Yeah. I think that's my thing. And I think what I've come to know is that, we have different partners for different reasons, and they bring different things to our lives. And, like you have a partner and you guys both enjoy weed and like making your own homemade gummies, for example, because it's legal in Canada, and it's not something that I'm interested in. So I'm, you can have that kind of relationship with them around that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? I see a question from Angus, which is a really great question.
Okay.
But
what does Angus have to say?
Can you see it?
Should we read that aloud? Angus, hello Angus, says, so my question to both of you is, what is your biggest turn on at a party, and does it ever bring up embarrassment or shame for you? Well, Angus, my mother asked me earlier tonight what I was doing, and I told her I was going to be recording this video and that I might show it to her. So what my biggest
turn on
at
a party. He means like a fun party.
Well, it's a fun party. You mean like?
He's like, I think it's like a sex party.
A sex party, right? Okay,
Not about talking about your mom watching this video.
No,
I don't think that's what he meant.
Well, here comes the embarrassment, right? Embarrassment and shame, which is, I think I'm lucky to say that there's very little that I feel embarrassed about or ashamed about. I want to normalize for myself and for everyone, society at large, the idea that sex is a human, natural thing. There are so many different facets to it, and there are so many different shades and variables to it. Mm-hmm. There are very few things sexual that are reprehensible or should be considered dangerous in any way. May not mean that I want all these things, and they may not always be appropriate in every circumstance, but for the most part, sex in itself is quite natural, right? Mm-hmm. So the level of embarrassment and shame very often is beyond the legal and highly ethical or moral parts. It's what we attach to it, right? So if we put this idea of shame, well, what's to say that we can't normalize it? Just like, years ago, online dating was only for perverts, and now it's the mainstream, right? So if monogamy was the standard, the baseline, poly was seen as something that only, a very few amount of people, it's becoming more and more common. So all that to say is, I think that we can talk about things and hopefully kind of remove the elements of shame connected to it, whatever your desires and fantasies are.
But that was a really good answer, my love. But that's not really what he was getting at.
You tell me then.
He was asking. That was a great answer.
Okay, let's
and
hear
I think that's really
I didn't reveal my own. He wants to know about our personal
He
stuff?
wanted to know what our biggest turn on is a party, and does it ever bring up embarrassment or shame for you?
By the way, Tara made these mugs that we're drinking them.
Yeah, some of you may have caught my pottery video earlier today, those who are my personal Facebook page. My biggest turn on at a party, I really like I mean, I like all things at a party. I just like, we've been to some good parties here in Toronto, and there's a great community of people here, and they're very like loving and open, and so we get into all kinds of really fun situations, and I really actually like when I see you like really doing someone. Like doing them hard, and I can watch and be right beside you, and participating in something and doing something together. It's getting hot in here. And I'm not embarrassed about it. I do have a funny story about a sex party where I don't know if it was embarrassing. It was just more interesting, of being with somebody, and somebody was taking me from behind, and I was someone else I knew was in front of me, and I was giving them oral sex, and then I hear behind me someone say, "Can I tap in?" And so I was face down, and I was like, I thought it was the person that was in front of me. And then, the person puts a condom on, does the thing, and then at some point they flip me over, and I found out that it wasn't the person I knew, it was somebody else. So,
dirty horny.
So, am I embarrassed about that? No, but it's a pretty great story.
Yeah, for sure. I think shame, my closest thing to shame would probably be my own self-criticism and embarrassments that I might have. Sometimes it's hard to perform. So, if I have any issue with maintaining or getting an erection, I think I'd feel embarrassed and shamed about that, which is horrible, right? I mean, why should I shame myself into that? Because I'm a little nervous about, will my anxieties create opportunity for performance anxiety, which is essentially what it is. So once you can get past that, everything runs swimmingly, as we know. But it's unfortunate to have that shame, but it's workable, and we can move through that. Where are we?
Okay, so we can.
Angus, we'll have to probably do some kind of direct message and give you like the real really juicy good fantasy stuff. Let us know. We'll make a group of it.
Okay. So we're getting lots of questions in, but we also have questions people sent in. So I'm kind of like, I don't know which to do.
Pick one out of the hat there. Let's see.
Let's go with this question. Eric was asking, I'd like to hear more about choosing to share your lifestyle choices with family, co-workers, acquaintances. Realizing that I am poly was freeing at first, but I have some hesitation when considering how I might be perceived by others. This is a great question.
Yeah. When did we get asked?
So, I mean...
So, I want to ask... What does anybody imagine is going to happen when and if it should be announced? What happens if I come out? What happens if I say that I am living this way or other ways? What are some of the considerations? What's the worst thing that can happen?
I think people are worried that, because it's still not mainstream for a lot of people, I think you feel like you might be judged or...
what would the judgment be?
Well, I don't know. That you're a slut. Well, I don't know.
I am, but I wear that with pride.
That you're not, that it's just about sex, and that you're not in loving relations. Like, people make big assumptions and that sort of thing.
Well, we have all kinds of relationships that were not in loving relationships. I mean... That's true. All kinds of relationships. So if I'm not in a loving relationship, if I don't actually profess single love, or love that is most familiar to us in that way, how does it anyway become connected with this idea that it's not as viable, as acceptable, as it is in some ways not moral?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? And I guess the decision is to... what you're comfortable with. And, you can tell people whatever you want to tell them, right? Or nothing at all. For sure. No, it's a personal disclosure, but I'm wondering how we can ever get to a point where we can just feel valid in whatever our choices are, whether we are poly or monogamous, where we are straight or gay, whatever it is, that I should have the right to feel inside me
that the way that I am is just as valid as the way somebody else is, and that I might also go further beyond that. That just because they're not like me, I don't have to feel in any way negative with them. I might really have this intrinsic desire and feeling of love for the other person, just the way that they are. Really about self-acceptance, acceptance of others, and inclusion.
Like my own experience in telling people, I was, I just, some of you know that I've just left my full-time job to do this kind of work full-time. And I met with some of my, thank you. I met with some of my teammates, and one of my former teammates was asking me so what exactly is it you're doing? Like what kind of coaching? And, I was like, ugh, I felt like I had to come out, and I'm like, I did? I told them, and they were like, wow, that's so cool. Honestly, the reactions I get mostly from people, I rarely get a judgmental thing. Now, I have not told my parents.
Okay, that's a good one. So your parents are kind of conservative, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Would you say?
I mean, I suspect that they know something is something's different. Because I've had relationships before. I had a really close friend that was my best friend, but I used to sleep over. So I think they kind of knew there was more going on there, and that I also dated other people too. So I think they kind of know, but I haven't actually told them.
But they know you otherwise, right? Your parents, they've met you before. They know you're hardworking, honest, sincere, loving, all those things. So I wonder how your relationship style would in any way invalidate those parts of you. So if the person knows you beyond that, right? If they meet you at Oasis, then that's primarily how they know you. But if they know you in any other capacity and deem you to be acceptable, how could any of that, why should any of that change in that consideration?
Well, it shouldn't, but people apply their own belief system to it. So, in the type of reading that I've done around this is I think some of the common questions are how did you get into it? And for people that are female identifying, sometimes I think there's an assumption that you've been coerced into it, arm twisted into it. So it's been suggested something that you can do is if you want to introduce it to family, is talk about what it is about being in that kind of relationship that makes you happy, and how it's helped you grow. Honestly, I've never been in a relationship like this before. This is sort of my first real polyamorous relationship, and it's the most open, loving, communicative relationship I've ever been in.
Ditto. Yeah, by far the most honest, right? I mean, I was in relationships before where I would either fantasize about certain things and lie to myself, or do things and then lie to my partner, and it was just not good either way. And yeah, I think it's because we do have such open and honest communication. We say everything, even if it's not necessarily to what we're wanting to hear.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're easy to talk to.
But it's not always easy to talk.
No,
but
it's
we
not.
have to keep the channels of communication open. I think it's critical, right? You got to be able to talk.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting off tangents.
No, it's true. So, so just deciding if you want to tell people, how you want to tell them, and then focusing on the great parts of it.
But it's a difficult thing, though. It is. I can appreciate it. And also, how do you then introduce, if you really do want to kind of have some level of disclosure, let's say you're in a threesome, right, a polycule with a primary and a secondary, then if you want to bring them around for the holidays, for example, right? I mean,
well, that's another thing too, right? Some people have relationships where everybody does get together. I think it's, you have relationships where people come to holidays. The thing about kids, I've always heard, is kids normalize things. So if you share with them and show them that it's a loving relationship, I think that kids would be very supportive of it.
It's not the kids.
It's the adults.
Yeah, it's the adults and
Kids are great, I have another mommy or daddy,
So that's an interesting point. So, you see a lot of same-sex couples today having kids, whereas like 40 years ago, you weren't going to. And then, go back not that long ago, the DSM, which is the standard, Bible of psychiatry, had homosexuality as a mental disorder, right? So times are changing, and it'll make it more normalized in the future, hopefully. Right?
Yeah. And if you do want to come out to family and friends, I think the thing is to be prepared that they may ask you questions that are awkward or difficult, because it's based on what their understanding is. Like, some people just don't know. I think when we're involved in this type of life and we understand how it works and how people communicate and how getting to understand. And, I think we have an understanding of it, but other people may not as much. Let's see. Siblings thought it meant my partner. Oh, yes. Okay. There's just something. Oh, okay. Kim Walker, their parents reacted positively.
Wow. Good for you, Kim. That's great.
Can you get the mic a little closer or pick up the volume, mate?
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Probably. I think I mumble, right? I'm a mumbler. All right. I'll try and speak up.
Andre is hard to hear. Okay. We'll bring this closer. Is that better? Speak louder.
I don't know if I'm hard to hear or if I am hard to understand, or possibly both, but okay, I'll do a better job. And you know what?
Ari's here.
That's really unfortunate, because all of the best things that I've said were earlier on. After this, it's just going to bomb.
Bill asked, can you comment on Metamour relationship options, such as compartmentalizations or kitchen table? That's Bill. Wow. That's a great question. So some people may not know what a Metamour is.
Tell us.
So Metamour is the partner of your partner. So your partner would be my Metamour, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So some people, like lots of people, have different relationships where everybody knows everybody. I think that's the definition of kitchen table, where everyone can sit around the kitchen table and talk. And
very often they might even live in the same house.
Yep, sometimes they do. And then compartmentalization is more when it's like, you do your own thing, I do my own thing, and we don't really, you don't meet, you don't interact.
Could even go as far as don't ask, don't tell.
For sure. And there's different ways of doing it, and people, I think, are comfortable in different ways with it. I mean, in terms of us, leftovers. Oh, Arzu said she can hand. Tara's fine. Andre, stop. Sorry, I'm distracted by the comments. So where were we? So in our case, what do? We have a mixture of, like, do we know our Metamours? We have met some.
We have met some, yeah.
Yeah.
It oscillates, I guess, but we I think what we do best is that we check in with each other and we find out what we want to know, what we don't want to know, and what we might have said today might not be the same for tomorrow, right? So it's a kind of like a continuous checking in and taking the temperature.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talk about stuff, but not necessarily the details, unless it's a really good detail, and then we talk about it. Sometimes.
Yeah, no, but we have shared some details. I press you on occasion. You're reluctant to tell me. But
I am not.
Yeah, you're not. Your first response is usually, why do you want to know that?
I just usually ask you if you had a good time. Ooh. Like, that's the thing. I always want to know that you had a good time, and whoever you're with is, treating you well, and you're treating them well.
Right. Yeah, I always want, whoever you're with, I want them to love you, and I want you to love being with them. For sure.
I definitely do.
Doesn't that sound like the C word?
What's the C word?
Compersion.
Oh, compersion.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Oh,
Does
that's a
everybody
good
know compersion?
segue.
You know compersion? Yeah, finally.
I do know what compersion is.
Tell us. Tara,
I actually looked up the definition.
Tell me.
Because,
what is compersion?
Well, I looked at the definition because some people think that compersion is a term that's used exclusively in, like, the polyamorous community, and
really?
it is not. Well, I think some people think that.
Okay, but it's not.
It's not. Compersion is basically feeling joy from someone else's joy. And so that could be in a sexual way, or it can be just feeling joy in general. Like, I could be walking down the street and see a woman with her child, and the child's laughing, and I could feel compersion for that person.
How does that differ from empathy, I wonder, then?
I don't know.
But
What do you think? You always ask me the questions.
Yeah,
Let's get him to answer the question.
Well, compersion, I'm going to go back to it as it pertains to people in the lifestyle or polyamory.
Yeah, sure.
What are we going to call this neighborhood network community kind of thing? But anyway, for people, see, what bothers me is that little thing behind. I got to get that out there. So compersion, the idea that we might take pleasure in other people's pleasure, I think for me, feels like something that I evolved into. Because when I was feeling less secure, when I was feeling more jealous, it would have been impossible for me, I think, to imagine getting pleasure or deriving pleasure out of your knowing that you're getting pleasure, right? So I think I have to be at a more secure spot to begin with. But then once I've gotten that way, then I go to it. So maybe it's like on that continuum, right? So maybe on one end, it is feelings of insecurity and jealousy, and the other end, it's to the point where I'm so secure that I can feel my own pleasure and you're getting pleasure. Mm-hmm. I think for me it does. Maybe people have a different idea about that.
Yeah, and some people don't have, like, you don't have to have compersion.
It's not a prerequisite? No, for sure.
It's nice because it's nice to feel joy when your partner feels joy.
Can you grow it? Can you kind of foster it or induce it in any way?
I think you can. I think you can. So practice, like, finding joy in things that aren't, like, difficult or triggering. So like I said, like, finding joy in everyday things, like seeing someone being happy, like
maybe even your partner, seeing your partner being happy in a non-sexual way. Yeah. Happy for them. Okay, that's a good place to start. Coming at home, right?
Yeah, and then you could work up from there. And like we've had situations like that at parties and things, right? Are you just looking at the chat?
I am.
There's just people talking back and forth. That's cool.
Well, I wanted to see if there were any questions that had come up that we were maybe needing to answer.
Oh, Messiah Davis is saying the opposite of jealousy. I don't think it's actually the opposite of jealousy.
Oh, no? Why do you say that?
Compersion doesn't mean that you won't be jealous. You can't feel some sort of jealousy.
No, but on that continuum, we were saying that jealousy would be at one end and compersion at the other.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's the opposite.
Well, yeah, actually the criteria might be different. You're right, because I mean, jealousy
for me.
Yeah, maybe they're in
discuss amongst yourselves. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think it's the exact opposite. I think you can have compersion, but also still have some jealousy. Because once in a while I'm jealous. Like if I see you, like if I'm in, if I don't know. See, the funny thing is, I think about us is when I'm in a room with you and I see you doing things, like if we're at a party or at a sex club, maybe counter to jealousy. Yeah.
Good way of saying.
I find you can feel many things at once. Yes, Kim. Like we've been at a party before, and when I see things happening in front of me, you'd think that, like, some people would think that would be actually hard, seeing your partner with another person, but I actually find that very arousing and exciting, and I don't feel jealous in that moment. I think I feel jealous more when I'm imagining, I'm creating a story in my head about what's happening. So I'm imagining that you might be falling in love with this person, and like all these things, because we are meaning makers, and I think we make up stories in our head, and they're usually the worst story ever. So it's kind of like when you don't know, when I don't know what's happening. I guess I get that's the potential for me of getting jealous is much bigger. But I find I don't get as I think it's because I feel secure.
Right. So not knowing, right? That's what horror pictures count on, right? So the monster you create in your mind is often worse than the monster that they could create on the screen, right? But for me, now sometimes if I were to, in certain scenes that I might get visually and that you could kind of like never get out of your memory, that can be, kind of impressive sometimes, right?
Sure.
As a potential trauma. Whereas in my mind, I could imagine, but maybe it's men are visual and women are more cerebral. I don't know, more emotional.
Oh, so you think it'd be worse to see it?
Possibly, yeah. There's a couple of scenes that I could imagine. I'm a great pornographer director, so.
But there hasn't been scenes that's happened in, though, has it?
Well, in the very beginning, there were. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was jealous and it was impressive. But you you helped to make me feel secure, and I feel more self-secure, and that possibly is one way.
So that brings up a point, because one of the questions was.
Yeah, one of the questions was.
One of the questions was around reassuring. So somebody asked about, like, if your partner's out with another person.
Yeah, Robin, you're absolutely correct about having the jealousy. You're right. It's not necessarily something that we grow out of, and we're better for it, or less if we don't. It's not a. I think that it can be a movement through security, but I don't think it's you're ever going to grow out of it.
It's kind of okay to have a bit of jealousy. Like, it's kind of it. I don't know. It makes me feel like I think we each like. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I like when
you put a lot of things in my mouth. Go ahead. Wah, wah, wah.
You put more things in my mouth. No, but tell me if this is true. That it feels like having a little bit of jealousy is like you obviously still like love and desire the person. So it reminds you of that. So that's kind of what I think about. Every once in a while you go, oh, I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, that's true. In that point, you're absolutely right. I have taken pleasure in being jealous in that sense, right? Like, I feel secure in the relationship with you, or if
I'm jealous of you, does that make you feel more secure?
No, I work on my own jealousy. But if I feel jealous, I guess because I'm appreciating that you're getting excited about it, and that I'm aware of like my investment in you. I guess I would say my emotional investment in you. Yeah. Ownership, ego.
Ownership, ego.
Well, it's that. Yeah, I guess that's the part that I take exception with, is that I don't want to fall into that old model where I felt like, I was theirs and theirs was mine exclusivity.
Like your tennis analogy.
Like the tennis analogy.
Tell them the tennis analogy for people who are new.
Okay, so the tennis analogy. Well, that's actually going back to, in a sense, how do we come out to family and friends and coworkers and that. So it was said to me, the idea of the tennis analogy is that you and I decide we're going to get together and play tennis one day. And we get together and it goes quite well, and we both had a great time. So I say the next day, hey, Tara, I had such a great time playing tennis with you yesterday. Would you want to play tennis again tomorrow?
And I'd love to play tennis with you.
So we play again. And then that goes so well. We play the next 2-3 days, and the next 5-6 times we get together. And then suddenly I say to you, Tara, I've had such a great time playing tennis with you. I'd prefer if you didn't play tennis with anybody else. Right?
But I love playing tennis.
Right. But I love playing tennis as well. But I don't want you to play tennis with anybody else, because if you do, I'm going to have the idea that you're not going to want to play tennis with me anymore. And I just, I want to have you simply as my own tennis partner. That's it. So that model, that kind of rule wouldn't make sense in tennis. I don't see why it should make sense in love and sex. I mean, I wouldn't want to limit you. I want you to come play tennis with me because you want to come play tennis with me, not because of some mandate or doctrine that I've imposed upon you.
Okay. Can we play doubles tennis?
Doubles, yeah. Group tennis. Let's go.
That's a good one. So that actually reminds me of one of the questions here. I
started. Love. Yes, thanks.
of around reassurance, and I think we were having a bit of a discussion around like if you need about reassuring your partners, like so that they don't, if they're feeling jealous. Mm-hmm. So I think you had a different idea about reassuring, and if it was necessary, should you have to reassure them?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, does it fall upon somebody in your constellation that they should try and make you feel reassured? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, every relationship is different, but if somebody feels they need to be reassured in some way, then I think the question would be like, what is it that they need to be reassured of, and how might you do that? Mm-hmm. Like, do they need words? Do they need actions? Like, I think there's times I think when I feel like I need reassurance, or that you anticipate that I might need reassurance. So things like things that we do is like connecting in to each other, with each other, is one way of feeling reassured.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking back to earlier on in our career, we were
In our career.
we were having a threesome, and yeah, I felt as though the other party was really invested in you, and I imagined that you were like really invested in them, and that's fine. But I had to, come to terms with my own feeling of that and how to offset it.
Mm-hmm.
And
then how did we deal with it? Do you remember? I don't know. How did we deal with that?
I think you listened to my concerns. You checked in with me. I think you even picked up on it before I had mentioned probably that was the thing. So I think that really it is a question then of wanting to find out where the other person is, find out what's going on with them, find out where the other person is, find out what's going on with them. And but I think beforehand, one of the things that does help us is that we have very good open communication, right? So we're going to talk about the certain things that we would find desirable and permissible, and the things that we would not want to partake in, right? So we check in with each other all the time, yeah, especially in the beginning.
So I'm going to see if there's any other questions. Should we talk about like tactical things like testing and things like that? I don't know. Would that be an interesting topic?
Everything's interesting. We've got a list of questions that people sent in, and they're asking other questions, right?
So, I know. I'm not seeing. I think gag reflex. I think we've got all the.
Somebody wants to speak about gag reflex?
No, I think they were just talking because I was saying something about being in the mouth.
Oh, that was going back a while ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, read one of our questions here.
Okay.
Okay. You said Laura
we
sent
did.
in a question?
Someone tips for time for self-care and time management when in multiple relationships, ensuring that you have all the fun you want but don't lose track of downtime and personal and professional needs. Time management. I have some thoughts. Do you have thoughts?
That kind of time management, that kind of like, I think might relate to what Kim had asked.
Because they're with another partner. Oh yeah, similar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely, that could cause jealousy if you feel that you're losing time with your primary because they're with somebody else. I think the thing, just like everything else, I feel like we keep saying the same things over and over again, is talking about these things. So like if you are in a partnered situation where you have a primary partner, or even if you're solo and you're seeing different partners, deciding, well, first for yourself, how much time you want to spend, but then if you have someone who you see more regularly, how much time works for you to be outside of that?
So it's going to come down to a negotiation.
I think so. And do you think that's fair? Because some people would say, like, if you're in a polyamorous relationship, that maybe you should just be able to do what you want. And I guess it depends on what your definition of that is, right?
Right. So it's going to be nuanced. It's going to be individualized. It's going to be, for the particular dynamics that people work out. But the only way to get to it and find any way of it being possibly viable is through communication. So it's through open dialogue again and again. It's got to be. So ask, questions where you're going to find out how you feel about it and how they feel about it, and where you might have some overlap and meet, and where there are hard no's and deal breakers, and then find out what is tolerable. But when we don't talk about it, we can only go on the assumption of what we imagine, or the fantasy of whatever it might be that way. Are you guys, are they not hearing me?
I don't know. I'm just making you, I can hear your voice going down.
Right.
I'm probably talking in your ear, so I'm talking really loudly.
You know what? You probably speak loud, and then I think that my volume is able to be heard, I guess. Something like that. No, maybe not.
Yeah. But
anyway, communication, right? So data, the information that we get through communication is power. We get to make our own decisions and decide whether or not it is a good thing for us. So it is all about the communicating.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do, I think that works for us, is that we we tell each other with as much advance notice as possible if we're planning on having a date with somebody.
But you know what? So how is it for you to tell me that you have a date? Because sometimes when I want to make a date, I'm still wanting to kind of like figure out how you're going to receive it, and you receive it well. But I'm wanting also to buffer you. I'm wanting to protect your feelings from feeling in any way inadequate or jealous, or that you think I'm too much of a slut.
I don't think that at all, though. I think I just want advance notice as possible. So if you're planning a date, you've already made a date, then I just want to know so that I can make other plans myself. So either have a date myself or do like plan something with friends. You know, I feel like, schedule's always tight for everything. So I just want to know. And I mean, we haven't had that problem, but I know people and some of the groups that I'm in, people do have this issue because, what happens when people, meet a new partner? Often it's very exciting. Like if you have someone you've been with for a long time and then all of a sudden there's someone new, then, you get like that NRE, new relationship energy. So you may be excited and wanting to see them more. And so if you do have someone that if you're in a relationship where there is a primary relationship like we do, I think it's like you said about negotiating. But how do you feel when I tell you when I have a date?
Honestly, kind of relieved. There's some degree of compersion, it's true, but there's also self-serving. That then it means that, if I'm going to ever have a date and announce it, I will feel less as though I'm putting it upon you, right? So it kind of gives me permission in that sense. Not that I need permission per se, but kind of in the scheduling idea, is it better that I make the date and tell you that I made a date, or should I ask you? Because often I want to do because we are each other's primary, I am wanting to say, I'm giving you kind of first chance. Like I'll make my social arrangements when kind of consideration. But you know what? I think that really brings to the idea of speaking earlier about polyamory and different types of polyamory, that we are very much in a hierarchical. Right? So the way that we are based, we have a primary and possibly auxiliaries. But it's interesting. Some people are relationship anarchists and want nothing to do with any type of hierarchy in their relationship, right?
Yeah. I don't think we do you think we don't really ask permission, but I think it's a courtesy.
No, I don't think it's permission either.
But we do make sure it's like, did we make plans for this day? Because I'm thinking of making plans this day. And then, we sort it out. I think that's kind of how we work it out. I think if you're not in a partnered relationship, it's a little different because you're negotiating. I've heard people who are in polycules that they have a Google Calendar, and then everything goes on the Google Calendar.
Fantastic.
And so everybody shares the same calendar, and you can see all the stuff.
How do we get an invite to that calendar? What a time to be with our hobby the way that we like it, right? Our hobby of living this lifestyle, that we should be in quarantine and so far from each other.
Yeah, it's hard to date right now, though, because actually we're really not dating because of COVID. But so it's a hard situation at the moment.
Not as hard as I would like it. But hard.
Okay. Wow, we're getting more questions. So, Angus, do you ever have disagreements with each other over degrees of intimacy with another partner, e.g. condoms, not condoms, etc.? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
What would we like? Would you like to start?
Why don't you go for it? You can for it.
I don't know. Do we have disagreements? I think...
yeah, for sure. We're not going to always agree on everything, right? I mean, you should have seen us before this call. We were going at it like adversaries.
Were we? No, we weren't.
Oh, God, please. It was like, window open, window closed kind of scenario, right? So I mean, there's times where we're going to have a disagreement, and we agree to disagree. But I think one of the most important things is that we are always maintaining the idea of respect towards each other, right? So we try and avoid getting too heated, being mindful about that, like any other. But it's through the idea of communication again, right? Being able to talk about how we're feeling towards it.
Right, but in terms of like safety and that sort of thing, those are things that safety. Well, he asked condoms or not condoms.
Oh, safety that way. I thought you meant, do you feel like secure fighting with me?
No.
I don't.
I was thinking about condoms, like safe sex. I was thinking about those are things I think that should be discussed and negotiated in advance.
Yes.
I think the biggest debate we have is we do have the condom debate sometimes. We do because,
condoms are excellent at reducing the risk of STIs, and we should use them regularly, especially with people that we might not have in our polycule. That being said, STIs are still transmittable. It does not prevent the spread of STI. It reduces, right? So if you're having unprotected oral sex, for example, you can still transmit disease.
Exactly. But that's a decision that I think if you should have with your partners and
be transparent about it, right?
Transparent about it.
Yeah, so much about being in this lifestyle, about being in a relationship like this is about trust and consent and consideration. Okay?
Yeah, and in terms of intimacy, we don't get a lot into the details of it. I think I might have made one request. I wanted to do something to you first. But other than that,
it evades me.
It evades you.
Look at what time it is. So what other questions do we have? Did we answer that question?
Well, did you have anything to say about that? Like in terms of intimacy and things you do with a partner? Like do we make rules in terms of do this, don't do this, or what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with?
Right. Yeah, no, we have spoken about that. We have certain boundaries. There's certain things we've said.
Yeah, healthy boundaries, and we discussed
What's a healthy boundary?
Well, healthy boundary is one we discuss it in advance. It's not a list of like thou shalt nots.
What's an unhealthy boundary?
I thought that's unhealthy. I don't know. Healthy boundaries could be also used in the kink world too, in terms of like what are boundaries in terms of what you want to be open to, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think like all these things are for discussion, right? But we definitely have different relationships with different people. Oh, asymmetry in open relationships.
So hang on. So going back to Angus's question about the disagreements and condoms, no condoms, for example. So it seems as though I think the general rule is no usually wins, right? So if we want to do something and one person's like, yeah, let's do this, like let's go here, that's the motion put forward. But if either person should ever say no, then it's just like no at the end of the day is what wins, right?
Yeah, but I think these are things you can discuss about in advance. Like some of the things that I've told like clients before is if they're just starting into polyamory. So say they already have a relationship where they might be currently monogamous or they're trying to figure out what they want to do. There's more of us, see? It just wasn't showing the whole screen.
Right.
So now we have lots of air. So a thing like a yes, no, maybe. So you can write down the things that for you that are yeses, things that are nos, like each do it individually, and things that are maybes, and then like write them all down, put them in kind of the order that you think that they kind of are, and then you can have a dialogue with your partner about all those things. And because like things change, like things that may be a no right now may become a yes, or things that become a maybe may become a yes, but it gives you a way of having a discussion about those kinds of things. It's like really simple. You can do it with sticky notes or whatever, but that's like one tactic I've recommended to people before. And I think it's effective. But if somebody has a boundary that, you feel is unreasonable, like you definitely have it, like a
hard no, you mean?
like a hard no. Like some people are like and people just have different boundaries. And some people, if they're meeting other people, like not allowed to kiss, no kissing. Sure. Which is interesting because some people think that kissing is like super intimate.
Yeah.
Thank you, pretty woman. Things like that. Mm-hmm. Traffic light rules. Oh, that's a good one too. But where there's asymmetry and when one person wants to be more or less open than the other does.
Yeah, so how do you deal with that, right?
Well, there are relationships where one person is monogamous, and one person's polyamorous. So I guess, I don't know, you got to decide if that works for you. I'm not sure. Talking again. I feel like talking is always the answer.
But I feel like something like that could potentially be the like a deal breaker. Like that's like a hard component.
No, not necessarily, because some people like may want time with their friends. Like I would say between the two of us, in terms of like when pre-COVID, you were probably a bit more active than me, like seeking out partners and going on dates, whereas I less so. But that was, and I was fine with that because I was wanting to do other things with my time, right? So that may be a situation. So sometimes it's cool. I guess it's just not cool when you're not happy with what the other partner's doing, and like what feelings it's bringing about, and like understanding why they're doing that, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's right. So what's our next question?
So we're gonna talk about that?
Did we not?
No, we didn't.
Oh, you want to do that?
Did we?
That's like a public service.
Oh no, we did. We talked a bit about we talked about condoms and stuff. So I thought we would talk about testing.
Okay, yeah, let's speak about testing.
Testing and STIs.
STIs.
So people often ask, how often should you get tested?
Excellent question. I think the answer is it depends.
It depends. What do you think they say? What do you think it says online? I actually looked this up. How often do they think? If you're over 25.
Well, see, now that's where the depends comes in, right? Now you're going to start talking about certain criteria. So if you are in a closed polycule or closed relationship and there's no outside activity and you've been tested, well, then you're not introducing anything new and you don't have to go for the same
but how do you know it's closed? How do you know that someone's not cheating or something like that?
No. We're assuming that we're all adults here in an open, ethically open relationship. So then you don't have reason to go out and cheat. The idea of cheating is...
but that's not what you were... I didn't think that was what you're suggesting. I thought you were suggesting monogamous relationship.
No, I'm talking about in our...
Well, what do you think they say online in terms of if you're over 25 and sexually active?
You should be tested regularly.
What's regularly?
I would say at least once a month, quarterly. But it depends on what
your once a month?
Well, it depends on... Listen, people in the lifestyle, some people are quite active and they do a lot more than other people. So that's why I say it depends.
Okay.
If you are...
But what it says, can I tell you what it says online? It says 1 year, which I don't think is...
Once a year?
Once a year, which I don't think is enough.
No, not once a year.
Yeah, I think... So I would say that we get tested...
At least quarterly.
At least quarterly, like every 3 months.
Yeah.
Unless there's something that comes up that means that we feel that we need to get tested.
Yeah, but we also get tested even if nothing comes up because
many
things are asymptomatic, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Basically, my rule is that every time that I go to the doctor's office, I always say, well, can you test me for STIs?
I do too. Like if I'm there anyways.
Yeah, from my knee or something, if I'm going there for something totally unrelated, could you test me, please? Just because I want to know. And I've been told by other people that they may have come in contact with somebody, and I don't envy them and having to make the phone call, but I'm glad that they tell me. And then the first thing I do is I stop any sexual involvement with anybody else. I go get tested, and I make sure. Luckily, so far, everything is always coming back negative, which is wonderful. But we need to be accountable. This is something that exists in our community, regardless of whether we want to or not. There's no moral assignment to it. It doesn't make us a good person or a bad person. It's just, it is.
Yeah, and I think it's important to destigmatize testing.
Exactly.
And that's part of the reason, like I go to my family doctor. So when I got my new family doctor several years ago, I was very upfront with her in what my life was like. And she was like, okay, great. Let's get you tested every 3 months. And I'm like, perfect. So I never have to question it. She never questions it. And if I come in because something comes up, she's aware, and they do all the testing there, which is, I like that model because, you know, it's always there, it's quick. But you may feel more comfortable like going to a sexual health clinic, and here in Canada, it's free to get STI testing.
Well, it's also free to get at the regular clinic. So I went and
everywhere, But in the United States, I think it's you have to look a little more. I mean, there is some free clinics. I did find a website, so at some point I will share that link. I found a really great link today that had a list of places you can go to if you're in the United States.
Yeah,
and
true.
I see
there are places.
That Simon is saying, "Oh, hello, Carmen." He said there's a great
in
local
Australia.
Sexual health clinic. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, the sexual health clinic, there's one downtown here. I've been there several times. The reason I don't like going there is because there's always lots of people there and you wait a long time. And I feel like it takes longer to get the results. But they're very thorough. They do all the tests.
Yeah, they're great. They're really great.
The only thing I would give for advice if you're going to your doctor's office is make sure they do all the tests. So one of the things that they sometimes miss is the throat swab. And so I always have to remind them every time I go that I definitely want a throat swab.
Yeah, so you usually do urine, blood, and throat. Right?
Yeah. So we've had like 2 situations where people have told us.
Information is power.
Yeah, it is power. Yeah, we've had 2 situations where people have told us that they either contracted something or a partner had contracted something. Yeah. So like when it first happens, it's a bit like, bummer. Oh shit, you know. But that's what I appreciate about the community, and that people are really open and sharing that information so that you can deal with it right away.
Right, and you know, going back to the question about shame, there is no shame connected with it, right? Again, it's just something that does exist. It's like a flu, if you want, right? I mean, it's not a bad person who's giving it to you. You're not a bad person if you get it. It's just it's something that exists, and just do the right, responsible thing. Get tested periodically, regularly, and take whatever safeguards and measures are necessary, and have a good time.
Yeah, have a good time. We're not telling you not to have a good time. Just make sure you're getting tested and being safe.
Listen to this. I feel like we're like reprimanding our friends here. Okay.
Well, some people don't get tested that frequently, so
no,
I think
true.
it's good to like say.
Well, yeah, for sure. We have a responsibility in the community. We're all members of this community. By extension, I mean, you know, the 7 degrees of separation is a lot closer in our community, right? Hang on, there were a whole bunch of things written there about testing and stuff. Do you want to say any of those things? Free across Canada and thankfully many other countries. Right?
Oh, I did get some stats. Should I give the stats about the exposure?
That's all. We'll make that information. It's just a bunch of.
Okay.
Let's go on. What are any more questions?
So Carmen was asking us, how long have we sustained this lifestyle?
Oh, good question.
So our entire relationship.
Oh, and then that reminds me of the question of how might we introduce.
Oh yeah.
How can we introduce being
in
the lifestyle or poly to somebody we're going with that perspective, or you know, our if we're in a monogamous relationship and wanting to open up, how might we say it?
Yeah. So first of all, we have to say it's been our entire relationship, so 3 years.
Not entirely. We went out for like 2 weeks before we started.
Right, we did.
It started off. It was we didn't know that we're going to be this way with each other.
We didn't know.
No, we didn't. Correct. It wasn't on our profile. I presented as a very monogamous kind of guy, monogamish.
And so did I.
Did you? I was a serial dater, but I was, you know, I still thought I had to be. I still thought I had to be in that model. I thought there were 2 choices. Either I was going to be this bachelor, which I kind of still am, or I'd be in this monogamish relationship, which I kind of still am, or I didn't know that I could have an alternative to it, right?
Yeah, and I didn't. Like most of my life, I've had monogamous relationships, where I've had like longer term. But until like after I split with a long-term partner, and then like I said, I met somebody who became a very good friend, and then we had like kind of like, I guess you'd call it like a friends with benefits. I wouldn't have called it like a polyamorous relationship because it was more of a don't ask, don't tell thing. And at the time, I wasn't happy about it. And I mean, I still see him once in a while, and he's amazing and love him. But for some reason it didn't work, probably because we didn't talk about things.
Mm-hmm. I had a little previous experience before. I kind of coerced a girlfriend of mine to go with me to meet a couple, and she agreed to it. And when we went into the bedroom, she made it seem like it was like the most earth-shattering sex she had ever had. So naturally, I felt totally stupid and insecure. And then when we left, she's like, "Okay, like don't ever ask me to do that again." And I was like, "No chance that it's gonna happen." But I was.
But is that the way to start it, though?
No, that wasn't it at all, right? I was just trying to fulfill a curiosity, but we never talked about it before. We never did any of those things. It was not the same mindset. We were not secure in our relationship at all. We were fighting and all that. I mean, it just wasn't. I guess I was trying to save the relationship that way. But the way that we entered into it was kind of fun too, right? Do you remember that story? Way back then.
Way back.
3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now?
Yeah, 3.5 years ago.
3.5 years ago.
So this is one way of doing it.
We
are very fortunate, I think, because we came to it together.
Yeah.
So you can tell the story.
We love to come to it together. So I wonder. So for those of you who have joined late, my mother is watching this podcast as well.
Is she?
Hello, Mom. Yeah, well, or she will afterwards. But anyway,
she's not in the group though. We're not going to invite your mom to the group.
She's going to see this video anyway. So Tara and I were about 2 weeks into it, and we're going at a pretty good clip. I think like we're doing like the 72A or something, or 73. And it's a complicated position. I said to her, wow, like, it'd be great if I had another set of hands. And she said, oh yeah, that'd be so hot. And I was like, really? Like you'd be into that? And she's like, oh yeah, totally. I was like, well, then, why don't we make a profile? And we actually finished what we were doing, and we started to make a profile. The thing is that I was leaving the next day for a 6 week vacation in Europe with my friend Arzu, and we met people, like we met profiles virtually, while I was in Europe and she was over here. It was kind of odd. But the reason why I bring that story up is because if you are wanting to introduce this possible venture into this world with somebody who you think might possibly be open to it, start it off as possibly a fantasy or even a lighthearted joke, and just get the temperature, see how they might feel about it. Open up the lines of communication. In other words, start a dialogue and ask people how they feel, and find out where they stand and see where you stand.
Yes, I think Carmen says she's failed epically at it once and she thinks she's done.
Aw, come on, Carmen.
I mean, it is great to be able to come to it together, but I'd say that that's probably not a typical situation. There's often one person that might be interested in it, sure. Or you may be starting a relationship and you're polyamorous and someone isn't, and how you bring that up and, help them navigate. I mean, we can certainly help you navigate that. That's part of what we do.
I was going to say, when I think when I was able to present myself more as being more comfortable with the idea, more open, more out in a way, the people that I started attracting in my life were already of that position. It's not like I had to try and convince them. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't meeting people who I was going to have to kind of find a way of telling. They were already in many ways aware of that and wanting that themselves. So it made it more viable, easier. But
what do you do? Like, so then I think this also happens. You might be in a relationship that started as monogamous, and or you're dating them and you're appearing as though you're monogamous, but you really want something that's different.
Okay, so that's a very good point. So if I'm in a monogamous relationship with my partner of a short term or long term, whatever it is, and I'm wanting to open it up, I want to know what my motive is. I want to know why now. What is prompting me? So is the relationship going south? And I think that this is going to fix it, or am I getting bored in a relationship and I think that this is going to be better, or where am I?
Or are you just wanting to live your true self? Like maybe you've always been polyamorous,
exactly.
and that happens to so many people.
For sure. Which goes back to
they try to pretend to be monogamous and then realize that they can't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying, you're gay trying to live a straight life, or you're, whatever it is. If you're not being your true self, it's going to be very difficult.
So I guess the hard part is like bringing it up to someone and not making them feel like how they, you don't want them to feel like it's not because they're not enough. Mm-hmm. Like how do you explain to someone? That's kind of, I think, the question.
I guess you could use the tennis analogy, maybe.
The tennis analogy, that's a good one.
Or the buffet, right? I mean, I love buttered chicken, but it doesn't mean that that's the only thing I want to eat at the buffet. I mean, it's still going to be my favorite, and I'm still going to want to, eat it again. But there's other tastes. Like, variety is a spice of life. But the reason why it's fun to date other people beyond just the sexual consideration is the stimulation we get from. Right. I mean, on so many different levels, right? We are getting something, another facet that, as fantastic as I am, I could not be the entirety of anybody's universe, nor would I want to be. And when I go out and I see somebody else, when you go out and you see somebody else and you come back, you are enriched in other ways. Even if I don't know the details, you have incorporated part of them with you, and it stimulates us.
Yeah. Well, and for us, it's not just about the sex either. I mean, sex is awesome.
Yeah, for
sure.
But
like usually the people that stick around are the people that you get along with and that you've become friends with. And like we've got like a lot of people even on this chat that we've been with and that are become really great friends. And
it enriches our lives emotionally.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Like
for sure.
So many of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable the quality of people that we've met in this, the love that we've experienced, the appreciation for. It's renewed my appreciation for humanity. It really has.
I just want to love all the people.
Yeah, and I do.
And this group,
and they love us.
And this group's so amazing. Like we think you guys are all great, and love that you're all listening in and asking the question. And do you believe it's actually possible to love more than one person at once? Yes, of course.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt.
Yeah, just like I love both my parents and my brother at the same time, and I love it. Yeah, I think. Yeah. But what about like? Romantically, passionately, can you be in love with more than one person? Is that the meaning of the question? I think so. I can love more than one person, but can I
always
be
in
primary?
Love? I believe it's possible, but there's always a primary.
I don't know. I feel like I've been in a couple of threesomes in my life where I felt like I really loved both of the people equally. I mean, they were short-lived. I'll give you that. Maybe I would have felt differently later on, but at the moment, I felt as though I had no true preference for either of them, and I felt very connected to both of them.
Yeah, I think that I think it differs from person to person. I don't know.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, I want you to be with all people that you love, but do you love them equally? I don't know.
No,
we
not always.
We love people differently too, and for different reasons.
Equally.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't always love them equally, but
different kinds of loves. Yes, your other wife is on here.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example. You have a best friend who's a woman, and you love us. You probably love us pretty equally. You might love her more.
I love her more in different ways, and I love you more in different ways. But I'm a loving person, so I see the opportunity to engage in a loving way, and I do. And so I'm with you right now, and I'm loving you, and you're loving me back. And when I see her, I will love her, and she'll love me back, and yeah, it makes for a very secure community for me.
Yeah,
that I feel loved by all these people, and I'm free to go out and love and be loved. And so you know that I love her, and you feel secure with my loving you.
Well, I love her too.
You love her too. Oh, that's the best, right? When our community becomes, it's almost like our little spaceship is flying through life, and we have all these like little members who love each other in different connected ways, and we are in this space lab going through the existence of life. I'm getting too philosophical, but anyway. Love gets me off.
Messiah says, I think you can be in love with one person, more than one person. Yeah, I think it's totally possible. Any other questions? I'm trying to think if we missed any on our list. We had so many here.
Oh, so we want to try and make the lexicon, right? Trying to define. So yeah, when we started off this evening, we were talking about the idea of introducing ourselves and how do we use these identifiers. And as much as I dislike using them, they're kind of necessary symbols at times, right? To find out, well, what do I mean when I say this? And what do you mean by when you say that? Because we're having a conversation, we want to have an understanding with each other. But what do we mean, right? So when we say certain things, how do we know that we're saying the same thing or that we're understanding each other? And what we want to do is we want to create a kind of lexicon, dictionary, where we might be able to hear from you as well. It'd be a consensus where we're able to try and come up with a vocabulary, a language for this world that is exploding, this world that we are participating in.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there. We've seen a lot of different ones. There's some in some books that we've collected, but we're going to collect our own. So we kind of thought we might do a bit of a word of the week because everyone has a different definition. So we're going to maybe put some up and give you some ideas on what we think they might be and then ask for your suggestions because I'd love it to be a bit of a collaborative effort.
Yeah, and if there's things that you want to put forward, then please don't hesitate to
or words that you want to include in the glossary, or what did I call it? A dictionary.
Oh, yes.
Dictionary.
Very nice.
One of the questions that came up was, how soon do I tell a new partner that I'm polyamorous? So you're on dating sites, like how soon do you disclose it?
Well, so that's the thing. So I've made a shift because, I'm a dude. I go out and I hunt. So I made a shift. My profile primarily was before more ambiguous. And then, if they were interested, then I'd kind of introduce the idea and see, how they felt about it. But no, it's my announcing that that's who I am. And then, are you interested in getting to know me?
Yeah, I've changed any of the profiles I have to be that, don't waste their time. Yeah. I tell people right away now, and it's pretty obvious. Any of my profiles, some of my profiles, even ones that are not like ones that are more like we're on field together, we have linked accounts there, so it's obvious that we're together. But some of my other accounts, I even have a picture with you in it because I want people to know, and I do say that I'm non-monogamous, and But I know one question came up from one of our members was asking who's solo poly is, I think that the situation that they run into is that they go on the sites and when they say that they're polyamorous, that the people that are responding assume that that means it's like promiscuous and that it's going to be a sexual relationship, and they go right into the sex part. And I think
they're gonna have sex on the first date, whatever. Which
assuming
they
just want, they just want a sexual relationship. So how do you deal with that? Like
I think what I've seen in many other profiles of people who are solo poly are first and foremost, unfortunately, they feel as though they have to do it, and I understand why they feel they have to do it. But they would say just that my being poly does not necessarily indicate that I am promiscuous or that it's not just about sex. So unfortunately, I think they do a little psychoeducation, right? They have to let people know, but it also then educates, and hopefully people will eventually get it and not have to. But I think being forthcoming and letting me know right away. What was your...
No, I agree. I just wonder if you are solo, if it's okay, because when you're on a dating site and you're on your own, so you're not. So when you're partnered, like we are, I'd say that you definitely should be I feel like I should be disclosing it right away. It should be very obvious. But if you're someone who's solo poly and you're dating, do you have to put it? Do you have to put it on your site? Like, because when you go and date someone, you don't know what's going to happen with it.
Right, for sure. And then why do you have to make that declaration? Why do you have to feel as though you have to make some kind of limitation or statement as like a disclaimer, right?
The only reason would be to find people that are of similar.
Well, yeah. So in that sense, it's to your advantage, right?
Yeah, but then you end up in that situation. But there are sites that are more poly-friendly, like certainly like sites like Field and stuff like that. But I think the situation that was discussed was more that, they keep getting, so if you go on those kinds of sites and you're solo, then you get couples that are wanting to add you to their thing, and you're not getting.
But you can get singles also.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I mean, it's going to, I think in that particular one, it's going to be primarily more sex-based than relationship-based. Not to say that you couldn't find, because we have, but.
Yeah, we've met lots of people. That's my
But I think the point about letting it be known is to your own advantage, because then you'll be attracting people who are already accepting and more like-minded.
Yeah, and you get to choose, and be upfront that, what it means to you, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, I think, the best answer. Messiah, yes, that's the issue that I come across a lot. Yeah, everyone assumes it's promiscuity.
Right.
Yeah.
So the point of promiscuity. So depending on what you're wanting, but I think some people also say that they are wanting an emotional connection. So that way, it kind of indicates that it's not just being two-dimensional, superficial, promiscuous.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What was that question?
No, that was just a comment. Were there any other questions? Oh, here's Amber. Oh, multiple partners during pandemic and lockdown. What are people doing?
Great question.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, Simon, about the list. We'll put it on the group page. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, we're lucky because we have each other. We have, I think, limited situation when things weren't as locked down. We did have a gathering, but everyone was tested.
Yeah.
And it was pretty amazing.
We did that for your birthday.
Yeah, but it was a very small group of people that we had already been with and that we knew, and they were also keeping to themselves, but also had been got tested just before the party.
Exactly.
But since then, nothing. We've just been having our online parties for anyone who's come to them. But we have seen other people. We're just keeping it really small.
Yeah, a tight bubble.
Very tight. We each now have.
But the thing is, as soon as you increase your bubble by one person.
I know.
So it's like.
That's the thing, and it depends on who you're increasing it with. So if you're increasing it with one person, but they have one person, and that person has one person, then all of a sudden it gets really big. So it's something we've been actually discussing. But, I mean, I'm not sure.
But, it's funny because, okay, so, you're going to take off your mask and do it here, but just living where we do, the numbers in Toronto, not everybody, Toronto is a pretty high rate of COVID right now, right? But not everybody in Toronto is part of the poly lifestyle community. So being in the poly lifestyle community doesn't necessarily increase your predicament of it. So if you have that one person in your bubble, are you in any way more susceptible or increasing the likelihood of it? Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, ideally, regardless of whether they're in the lifestyle or not, you want to reduce the amount of people in your bubble.
Yeah.
So having a partner in, letting another person in, well, you're going to be increasing your risk and your odds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, so
be safe. But I think, we're coming, there was something in the news today saying that we're turning the corner on the virus.
Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, so.
There's,
when they do finally say, okay, everybody can come out of the bunker now, there's going to be a lot of travel, a lot of sexy travel going on.
Sexy travel.
Yeah, short and long term and immediate. So
excuse me.
Fun.
It'd be a good time for us to plan our exotic, erotic vacation trip.
We
so
got
that's something
ideas in the works.
We hope to do in the near future is have some sort of destination trip that people could come to, which would be very fun. Question: what happens when both people are into adding couples, but only one of them pursues and vets for dates? I'm concerned he's not wanting it as much as I do, and also he tends to have to cancel for work mostly. I guess I'm asking, is that the way it usually goes? I'd love to be more even. I've gone off on my own with girls for fun. I'll send them stuff to try to spark a drive, but it fizzles. That's a great question. Yeah, I think I would probably say of the two of us, you're the one that if we're looking to meet up with another couple, I'd say you're the one that's doing the heavy lifting mostly. I mean, I'm cool with that. I'm still interested. What we try to do is if you've met someone, we'll set up a group chat pretty quickly so we can all connect.
Yeah.
That's one way of getting involved. I mean, are you sure that it's that they don't want it as much as you do? Have they said that? Maybe something to discuss, like could there be something else that's true? Maybe they're happy to be doing things on their own in that time. It's hard to know without really like digging in and asking. Yeah, did you have any thoughts on that?
I think that sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I did just yawn though. Did you see that?
I did indeed. We've come up to the 1.5 mark.
1.5 mark. Wow,
Yeah.
We've been on for an hour and a half.
Can you imagine? Time flies.
Well, we really appreciate everyone being on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts and around like how often you would like us to do this, we're definitely happy to keep it going. You can put questions in the group anytime. Invite you to engage in conversation in the group and ask questions that you want answered. And we'll jump in. Other people in the group will jump in. We've got like almost 400 people who
Really?
are in the group. Yeah, it's getting close. And they all have different experiences and different ideas. So it's a great place to do that. We only ask that people are respectful and remember that your poly is not everyone's poly. And so
Right.
to be open in your commenting. Definitely
always
monthly.
respectful.
Yeah, monthly. Monthly might be good.
Yeah, that might work.
And so if you are new or you're having some trouble navigating in your current relationships, we are here.
Or if you're old to it. And
If you're
having
old
some
to
trouble,
it,
Scotland
yeah.
Stale, whatever. Yeah, you want to just, anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, so right now I'm offering one-on-one coaching. So you can send me a message and we can book a call. I do a 1-hour call and we can chat about what it is that's stuck. And if I can help you, then we'll talk about that. And Andre also offers psychotherapy if that's something you need. And we're very excited because we're working on finalizing a course, opening up 101. I don't know, it doesn't have an official name yet, but
It'll be clever.
It's going to be clever. So thanks everyone for joining. You guys were great. Veronica, we're going to post this in the group so you can listen to all of it. And we thank you very, very much, everyone, for attending and asking your questions.
Namaste.
You guys are awesome. We love you and have a great weekend. Ciao.
Bye-bye.